Welcome, everybody, back to Friar Talk. Today, we're going to be talking about a few ace starting pitchers. Basically, the idea is, can the Padres actually land one of these guys? So, if you guys were not informed yesterday, the MLB basically, like every single team got 30 million bucks based on like a new Disney deal, I believe it was. It's something to do with Disney. Basically, every team made $30 million. Now, you still kind of have the salary cap, stuff like that, to kind of see like where they're going to end up in terms of like, financials. And this is something it's spread across every single team, right? But for the Padres, we know that they are willing to spend. We know that they are kind of in an all-in kind of mentality. And I like the idea of them going after a Jacob deGrom, Carlos Rodon, Justin Verlander, something like that. So my question for you today, Isaac, is do you think there is any chance that the Padres can land a true ace, a true number one to take over? You already got Darvish, Musgrove, Snell, but is there a guy that you can bring him and you can confidently say, this guy is our one, and we're going to have a pitching rotation that is so deep that Blake Snell is our fourth? Do you think there's any chance that the Padres can end up doing that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we talked about Xander Bogaerts in the previous episode saying, look, if they're willing to sign Xander Bogaerts, you're clearly willing to spend some money. Xander Bogaerts is probably estimated to make like 25, 30 mil. You look at the pitching market, DeGrom's probably estimated to make, I mean, I don't know, Matt, maybe you can look up his spot track estimate, but I'd probably say around 40 million. Rodon's around like 32 to 35. Verlander's like 45. Now, I think a lot of people might think, well, they're going to get assigned to longer term deals. And this previous episode, me and Matt were talking, look, we can't really sign someone to a long term deal unless it's like front loaded. If it's front loaded, you actually might be able to do it, because if it's front loaded, you set yourself up to where now they kind of cancel out, because Fernando's deal is backloaded. Juan Soto, you have to sign in 2 years. That's something you can worry about in 2 years. But DeGrom is injury prone. Is someone really going to sign him to? I mean, he is one of the greatest pitchers to ever do it. So I feel like he's the most likely to sign, 5-6 year deal. Personally, whoever signed him to 5-6 year deal got robbed. He's injury prone. Yes, he's probably the best pitcher in all of baseball. He's amazing, fantastic. But can you really count on him to last a full season? I don't know. And you can kind of say the same for Carlos Rodon. Younger, coming off a season where he put up a 6 WAR, a 2.88 ERA, season before 2.31 ERA. Absolutely, definitely one of the best pitchers in baseball. That front end guy that everybody wants. Same with DeGrom. I think the Padres can get Rodon. I really do think the Padres can get Rodon. Front load his deal, whatever you got to do. But Verlander is kind of a guy that, if he was a little cheaper, I think it would make a lot of sense for the Padres, but he's estimated to make like 45 million. And I think he makes sense for the Padres in terms of, all right, he's 40 years old, 39 years old, whatever it is. He's probably going to get a 2-year deal. And that would work perfect for the Padres if he wasn't $45 million. But like I'm saying, man, like I said earlier, if the Padres are willing to spend money on Xander Bogaerts, they're willing to spend money on pitching. Now there's this tier of guys that we're talking about specifically, these front end of the rotation guys, top 5, top 10 pitchers in baseball. And there's the next tier. There's Kodai Senga. There's Chris Bassett. A few guys that the Padres probably are going to get linked to multiple times this offseason. But if we're talking guys that, hey, maybe the Padres are willing to spend a lot of money, it's these guys. So I don't know how likely it is. I feel like if the Padres are going to go for an ace caliber pitcher, it's going to be through the trade market, considering these guys are kind of freaking expensive. Mike Clevenger, 12 mil, Boyd, 10 mil. I mean, these are guys that I don't think deserve to make double digits. I just saw Mike Clevenger blow 2 or 3 Padres games. Just absolutely horrific. So I don't know. I don't feel like those guys are worth double digits. So I'm thinking, how much are these guys going to cost? And I think that if you don't want to pay these premium prices, you're going to have to go through the trade market. But the problem is your farm system is depleted because you traded for Juan Soto, and that's not a bad thing. Shoot, I would do it all over again. But yeah, you would probably have to give up like a Jackson Merrill, Luis Campusano. And if you look at the major league level, probably Ha-seong Kim, one of Ha-seong Kim, Jake Cronenworth, Trent Grisham, whatever it is. So if you do go through the trade market, there's guys like Brandon Woodruff, there's Corbin Burns, there's Shane Bieber, probably some other guy that is available that nobody knows about, but AJ knows is available. How many of those do we get every year? So I think the trade market would be more optimal, but that's not saying that the Padres can't sign one of these guys because they've shown the willingness to spend the money. Seedler's even, like I said last episode, Seedler wants to spend this money. He already said, look, I can't take it with me. I want to spend it. So it's an intriguing thought.
Yeah, dude, and you brought it up about, guys like Rodon, and I don't know, Isaac, tell me right now, is your preference of these three guys, DeGrom, Rodon, Verlander, is DeGrom your number one right now?
Based off talent, yeah, definitely. For the cost, I feel like I'd rather have Rodon.
That's what I kind of thought. Just because just based off what you have said and today and also in the past, but dude, I would rather have DeGrom. Like, in my opinion, like you were talking about the injury stuff. So I think it's really interesting with Jacob DeGrom because he gets noted as a guy that's an injury prone player, right? But if you look at his seasons, so 2020 screws everything up every time. But he was third in Cy Young and he pitched 68 innings or whatever it is. It's kind of a weird year. He basically was there, right? He was basically pitching. But you look at the 3 years before that, right? Before 2020, where he pitched over 200 innings every year. And then in 2021, we saw how insanely dominant he was. Then he got hurt. Then he missed the back end of 2021, the early part of 2022. He came back, and he was a little bit up and down last year, right? Buy low. You're buying low. And Isaac, you brought up one of the best pitchers to ever do it in terms of talent. Go for it. In my opinion, if you're going to spend money, if you're going to be a team that's all in, you go after Jacob DeGrom. You go after the biggest fish on the market. If all these middle tier guys, if Clevenger's making $12 million, well, then I don't want to sign Sean Manaea. I don't want to sign Chris Bassett. Spend everything and go and get Jacob DeGrom. That's my thought on it. So I feel like I feel a little bit differently, and this is not to knock Carlos Rodon. I think Carlos Rodon would be awesome. I think any of these three guys would be awesome, but I would probably say, in my opinion, I would rather have Jacob DeGrom at 1, Justin Verlander 2, Carlos Rodon 3, in that order for targets for the Padres. Why? Because if you're kind of window right now, and I don't think that's fair for the Padres. I think their window is going to be a lot longer than what people have kind of put on to with it. But you're hey, we don't know what's going to happen truly with Juan Soto, so we're going to try to really win these next 2 years. Then you go and you get a Jacob DeGrom or you get a Justin Verlander. I really believe that. And is Jacob DeGrom going to cost 4 years for $200 million? Probably something like that. Something stupid. Something that's so ridiculous that we're oh my God. But guess what? None of us have to pay the money. Isaac, me and you, we don't have $200 million to spend on Jacob DeGrom. That's all Mr. Peter Seidler right there. So if Peter Seidler's willing to go all in, then I think you go for the home run. And I think you go for the guy that could potentially really, really take this team over the top. Because what did we just see? We just saw basically the exact same Padres team that we're going to see next year without Fernando Tatis. Just make it one step away from the World Series. What gets you over the hump? 1, Fernando Tatis. 2, fucking Jacob DeGrom, man. Shit. Dude, there's no one else that you would rather have and say, yeah, we're going to throw Jacob DeGrom game 1 in a playoff series. Dude, that's what you want. So, yes, it's risky, I guess, but I think Carlos Rodon is more of an injury-prone player. Justin Verlander is 7 years older than Jacob DeGrom. I think Jacob DeGrom, you can start talking yourself into it, and I think I've done it, making Jacob DeGrom the safest option of these guys, even though that sounds kind of foolish, I guess, if you don't really think about it, but you start looking and you go, well, Carlos Rodon has been hurt so much. Last 2 years, phenomenal, ridiculous, right? but before that, doesn't have many seasons over, well over 100 innings pitched. Justin Verlander's going to be 42, 41? I forget how old he is, but DeGrom's like 34, 35. He still has a couple years left in the tank. So, in my opinion, I think you got to rock with Jacob DeGrom. And I think if you're going to go all in, if you're going to do a kind of a full send move, don't go after Xander Bogaerts. Don't go after Carlos Rodon. Don't go after Chris Bassett or Josh Bell or any of these guys. Go sign the biggest fish that's left. I guess you could say Aaron Judge is the biggest fish left, truly. But I think it's Jacob DeGrom. I think Jacob DeGrom is the guy that will translate to the most wins on this team. And maybe that doesn't mean regular season, but if he is healthy in the playoffs, if he is healthy and you have your 4 guys healthy in the playoffs, you cannot argue this is the best pitching rotation in baseball come playoff time. You have guys that can pitch in different spots. You have a guy like Nick Martinez you can throw in the 6th inning and have him pitch, 6, 7, 8. You have Josh Hader, and maybe people are down on Josh Hader. Guess what? I'm not down on Josh Hader. We just watched Josh Hader be dominant. Did he have a little bit of a hiccup? Sure. Guys are going to have that throughout their careers. Josh Hader's still a stud. You add Jacob DeGrom to this pitching staff, you add Fernando Tatis to this order, and you're telling me that, we don't have enough offense? I don't know if I can really agree with that. Like, if you add Jacob DeGrom, you don't add anyone on offense, cool. Like, I don't really care who you toss out there. Like, I really don't. Like, you have a 1, 2, 3 that's probably unmatched in the league right now. So if you're able to do that and you have these 4 guys starting rotation, this deep of a bullpen where you have Suarez as your setup man and Hader as your closer, and you have other bullpen pieces that are really good, this is a really scary team. Might be one of the most scary teams in the league. So for that reason, I really hope that they land Jacob DeGrom. Do I think it's going to happen? Unfortunately, I don't really think that these guys are like guys that the Padres are going to get. But I really hope I'm wrong. I really hope that one of these 3 guys is in a Padres uniform this season. And if there's one player I could pick heading into free agency, it would be Jacob DeGrom. And I would take him over Xander Bogaerts 100 times over. And maybe it even doesn't work out, but I think the upside is there that I would rather see them take Jacob DeGrom. So a couple last questions for you. Kind of what do you think that I'm saying? Because I feel like I'm in a little different spot than you. And also, if you were going to predict these 3 guys, where would you predict Jacob DeGrom, Carlos Rodon, and Justin Verlander to land?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I feel like considering their price tag, you kind of have to look at the teams that spend up. So you could look at the Dodgers. You could look at the Mets. You could look at the Rangers just spent up on Simeon and Seager. You can look at them. There's no Houston and the Padres, of course, inevitably the Padres. I feel like one of these guys will go to LA. I feel like one of them will go to the Dodgers. I feel like another is going to go to Houston. And I used to say I think DeGrom will go to Atlanta. Right now, I mean, I feel like his market's not really going to be there. I truly don't feel like he's going to. I don't think either of these guys are going to have too big of a market out there. I think you're going to see bigger markets for Chris Bassett, Kodai Senga, just because they're going to be a lot cheaper, and teams are going to think, well, they're cheaper, they got potential. This is, they're good pitchers. But these guys are going to be purely for those teams that are willing to spend the money. So I'll go DeGrom to either Atlanta or the Rangers. Rodon, I'll go with the Padres or. And I don't mean that as in just because I want him. I really do think he's a candidate for the Padres, considering what do we have? 1 lefty in the rotation right now. I really do think he's a candidate. So I'll go Padres. I feel like the Giants might be willing to spend the money. Padres or Giants. Verlander, I'll go with Houston or Los Angeles. So that would be my prediction. What was the other question you asked?
Just if you think there's really, truly any chance that one of these guys could land with the Padres.
Yeah. I mean, of course, they got the money, they got the owner willing to do it. Their window is right now, and if you look at the starting rotation right now, Yu Darvish just had a fucking phenomenal year. So good. I mean, Yu Darvish, I don't feel like he's getting enough credit for how good of a year he had. But a really good year for you, Darvish. Blake Snell, yeah, he started off rough, but isn't that what we've kind of sort of come to expect from Blake Snell? What did he end with? Somewhere in the threes in terms of ERA. He had a bounce back and a half. He was fantastic this year. Back end of the season, he was our ace. I mean, him and Darvish were so good. Joe Musgrove, another guy that you're going to get consistent innings from. He was a rock again this year, so those three guys are locked in. But then you have one question mark, and Nick Martinez. Nick Martinez is good. I'm not saying he's not good. 10 million. I mean, shoot, for a starting pitcher, I'll take it all the time. But I think it's a little scary because he can get hit. But shoot, I'll take like a 4 ERA from a fifth starter for sure. The problem is also we need depth. So, Matt and I were talking about it earlier. Jay Groom's gonna have to step up. What was the other guy's name? Teheran, something like that. Julio Teheran. He's gonna have to step up, be a sixth starter. I mean, the depth is gonna have to be there for the Padres, but if you're looking at an ace caliber pitcher, like you have these three, and then you have the guys. I don't know if I talked about him in this video or last video, but then you got Shane Bieber, you got Corbin Burns, you got Brandon Woodruff, like guys that you might be willing to trade for. That, yeah, you might have to pay a pretty penny, but they also might be cheaper in terms of how much money you spend. Shane Bieber is my favorite. But I don't think you're necessarily wrong on Jacob deGrom. I'm scared only because he might cost a lot of money, and I think his market is going to be I don't think it's going to be a big market, but I think teams are going to be willing to spend more on him. The Dodgers, the Mets. I think those two teams are really going to try hard to get him because big market, big name, one of the greatest pitchers ever. They got a lot of money. I would honestly expect him to stay with the Mets. But I don't think you're wrong. I think if you're looking at this pitcher's market and you're saying, this guy's too expensive, this guy's too expensive, this guy's too expensive, like Chris Bassett legitimately might make 20 to 25. Kodai Senga we were saying Kodai Senga should be 15 to 18. He legitimately might be 20. Just because he throws like 97 and 99 miles per hour. He's been clocked at 102. He's got a ghost fork or something like that. He might be more than we think. So if these guys are too expensive, why not just go for the top guy? I mean, yeah, it's going to cost you more money, but you're also I feel like you'll get better value out of it. If you're going to pay top dollar for, let's understand something. If you're paying top dollar for one of these guys, you're getting top dollar production. I think it is a guarantee. And injury forbidden. If you're paying for one of these guys, you're getting the production you expect. They've done it year in, year out. Jacob deGrom, Carlos Rodon, Justin Verlander, all top 5 pitchers this year. They consistently do it. So if you're paying, you're getting the production. You can't say the same for the other guys. I really don't think you can say the same for Kodai Senga. Kodai, yes, I want him. 20 million though? Or even like 19, 18, whatever it is. This is a guy that we've seen might be injury prone, has control issues. He's granted a fantastic project. That's what he is. He's a project. You still got things to fix. You still have some injury issues. That's kind of a developing thing with pitchers right now, unfortunately. But I do like Kodai Senga. But this pitcher's market's kind of wicked, and that's why I'm thinking if they're not going to get a top guy, then go to the trade market. I mean, I understand you don't really have much to trade, but go to the trade market. See if maybe some of your prospects are worth something, because I think those two organizations, the Brewers and the maybe not the Guardians so much, but the Brewers especially are having, I think they're going to be having a fire sale. So, yeah, I think the Padres are in the market for an ace. You only see AJ Preller go for guys that are not top names if the top names are already gone. You know what I mean? He goes for the top guys all the time. Juan Soto, Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, Joe Musgrove wasn't a top name at the time, but Mike Clevenger, Sean Manaea, all guys that were big names upon arrival in San Diego. So he's going to try going for a big name. It's just a matter of who.
Yeah, I'm there with you. So I'll go through my predictions real quick first. So Jacob deGrom, I'm going to say he lands with the Rangers most realistically. Carlos Rodon, I'm going to say he goes to the Astros, and I'm going to say Justin Verlander lands with the Dodgers. That would be my guess. That would be my honest guess. And I'm really hoping the Padres can steal one of these guys because I think there's so much value from a maybe not a full season kind of scale, but I expect the Padres to be a playoff team. I fully expect that. And I think that everyone that's listening right now, every Padres fan should go into next season going, we are a playoff team. If we do not make the playoffs, it has to be like a ridiculous, like horrible season, basically. With that said, what helps you most come playoff time? Signing Xander Bogaerts or Josh Bell or some other guys? We're saying, let's go get Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom, like it's got to be Jacob deGrom in my opinion. So it's got to be an ace pitcher. You bring up Shane Bieber, you bring up Corbin Burns, stuff like that. I like that idea as well. And I think that very likely because of the market, and you were just talking about that kind of like that mid-tier market, I think the Padres' thought right now is there, in my opinion, I think there's kind of two options. You go and you land like an insane pitcher, or you go and you spend a little bit more money on your offense and you trade prospect capital to go get that pitching. I think that's probably more likely, but I like this way because it's like, yeah, you don't have to get rid of those prospects. And once again, I've already said it, like, it's not my money that we're spending. It's not your money that we're spending. So it's like, as like fan, I always think that's so funny, especially in baseball. It's not like football where it's like, oh, or like basketball. It's like, oh, we have a salary cap, and obviously that can be manipulated a little bit. But like, it's like, yeah, bro, we're not spending the money. Like that's just like ownership spending the money, and like there's not like a true salary cap. There's luxury tax and stuff like that, but like it's a little bit different. So if you're gonna go all in terms of financially, then go and get Jacob deGrom. I would rather see you go do that than go sign Xander Bogaerts. I'd rather see Will Myers and Jose Azocar and Luis Campusano getting at bats and Jacob deGrom on the mound than seeing Xander Bogaerts on the plate with this lineup. Like, that's what I'd honestly think. Because you brought it up right now. Like, if the Padres season started tomorrow, right? Technically, your 4 and your 5 would be what? Jake Groom and Julio Teheran. Like, that. Obviously, it's not going to be the case. But, like, where are the biggest holes? You have 2 of them in your starting rotation. And it's very likely that, say you do go and get Jacob deGrom, it's very likely that one of those 4 guys is not going to be pitching in the playoffs. So guess what? You double down and you go and you get another guy. Like, that's the way I see it. So that's ultimately why I want them to go get an ace. But I don't know. Anyone listening, let us know what you think. Am I completely off the rails tonight in terms of kind of like saying like, screw it, we're going to go all in on a Jacob deGrom kind of guy? But I don't know, bro. That's my honest thought. Maybe it's more of like a fan element to it of like, yeah, we want to go get the best guy in the league. But I do think that it ultimately would help the Padres the most. But let us know what you think. Also, Isaac, you did say, you kind of brought up some of these trade candidates. We do have to make another video. We talked about kind of some offensive guys, Sean Murphy, Ian Happ, Anthony Santander as like potential trade targets offensively. But we definitely got to talk about the pitching in terms of pitching of who the Padres could end up getting. So let us know what you guys think. If there's any pitchers too that you guys are like, hey, I really would like this guy to get targeted, make sure to comment those guys as well. But also let us know, do you guys think that adding a Jacob deGrom, Carlos Rodon, or Justin Verlander would really make that big of a difference? With that said, we'll probably be back next week, but have a great weekend, everyone. Hopefully you guys enjoy your Sunday watching football. But with that said, thank you guys, and we'll talk to you all very soon.